Hello, welcome to another episode of Holy Buddha. My name is Hayden. With me, as always, is Adam, and today we have a very special guest, Aman. If
Hi,
you'd like to introduce yourself.
I'm Iman. I'm Muslim. I wear the hijab.
Nice, straightforward intro. So, Adam, unless you have anything to say, I think we can kind of just get started.
Yeah, I mean, you know the rules. Just you have the floor. Just say whatever you want.
Yeah.
Just go ahead. You can go ahead.
Aman, you can go ahead.
You
Oh,
guys,
I don't know
All
what
right, I
to
think
say.
there's a bit of confusion. Our channel's a lot of people like talking over each other and just kind of like staring at each other. But
I need to like start asking me questions and stuff though right now.
okay, what are like the basic principles and like teachings of Islam?
All right, so I guess we can start off with like how to become Muslim, because that's like based off of that. That's when you like kind of like, do that. So to
Right.
become Muslim, you have to say the Shahada, which is one of the first kalimas, and it's please don't repeat after me. You'll become Muslim. La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, which means there is no God, but there is only one God, is Allah, and his last messenger was the Prophet Muhammad, right? Some like variation of that. I don't remember the exact meaning, but it's like that. And you're Muslim. That's literally all it takes. You just have to say that you're Muslim with your full faith and heart. And then there are the 5 pillars of Islam, which is Shahada, what I just said. Then there's Zakat, which is like giving charity. You should give out charity, which is at least, I think, about 2% of your income, which, by the way, isn't that much. And you're supposed to give it out to charity. Muslim, preferably if they're Islamic. So, like, causes like the Palestinian cause, Yemen, Syria. Those are a lot of places where my family personally donates now for zakat. Then there's Hajj, which is like, it's recommended that you go to Mecca and you do like a pilgrimage around the Kaaba and go to Medina too. It's not required because, as you know, some people are born into financial difficulty or later on life face financial difficulty, and that's a very expensive trip. So it's encouraged but not required. If you can't make it, then you have Rosa Siyam, which is what's it called? Fasting, which is during the holy month of Ramadan. Muslims are required to fast 30 days. Women do get it off because as you know, they have menstrual cycles. They can have a week off for that. And breastfeeding mothers, pregnant ladies, old people, sick kids, sick people. That's another thing. And finally, we just have wait, no, I forgot the last one. I'll get back to you later about that. But those are basically the 4 pillars I know so far. So I guess that's like the main principles. So yeah.
So I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that you've always been Muslim, as in like you were born Muslim and your parents are Muslim.
I was born Muslim. I did question my faith for a long time because, like, I wasn't sure. I blindly went into Islam, right? Because I was just grew up with it. Kind of everyone was doing it. But I remember, I feel like Adam also said this before on one of your talk shows that, like, he's starting to, like, like, think about Catholicism in a different way than he had before. And I was like, I kind of related to that. I was like, I was seeing some of the teachings and I was like, some of this stuff doesn't resonate with me. I don't believe in it. So I am Muslim, but I am also thinking like I may not be the same Muslim I was before. If that makes sense.
Right. That's kind of interesting because, especially in our first episode, we were talking about growth and kind of, becoming not a different person, but thinking differently and questioning and stuff like that. So I think it's really interesting because I think, unfortunately, in the West, we have a kind of a misconception of Islam as like this, a threat, but also something that people just kind of blindly follow. So it's very interesting to see, someone who is a very dedicated Muslim that is kind of questioning and thinking critically about certain things you believe and just kind of growing as a person.
Of course, I feel like all religions are not perfect,
Mhm.
right? In Islam, we do believe Islam is perfect, but I believe according to modern times, some things have been changed. It
Right.
doesn't fit the time standard, which is personally my belief. I don't know if other people don't believe that. That's all right. It's just what I think.
Right.
I mean, I think that's like the natural course of religion too.
Yeah.
It's just liable to evolve and change with the times. because
I've always said that, like, I don't think Buddhism is like the true religion or a perfect religion. I just think it's true for me. I think everyone kind of has their own truth. And there's certain truths that are objective, like the earth is round, the sky is blue, stuff like that. But there's certain truths that we find in ourselves, and that perhaps a truth that applies to us. For example, I'm sure Adam would be willing to say that Catholicism is like the true religion, and you would be willing to say that Islam is the true religion. But for certain people, perhaps they have a different way to happiness, kind of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. I see the same thing. I do believe Islam is the true religion personally, but I am accepting. I'm always curious about other religions, which is why I like watching your guys' videos a lot. It's good to see a different view.
This is kind of, I'm not sure if this is going to be not necessarily insensitive, but you don't have to answer it if you don't want to. But why would you say that, so many people in America and the West are so like afraid of Islam and so scared of it and see it almost as a threat?
All right, so I'm going to talk about this from a social perspective, because there's also, like, obviously, this is America, politics are always involved somehow, some way. But from the social perspective, I think majority of fear against Muslims started after 9/11, obviously, right? Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, they all, like, attacked the World Trade Center, and a lot of people were killed. It was a horrible thing. It should not have happened. But unfairly after that, Muslims were being targeted. Businesses were like closed down. People were getting murdered. It was rampant. It was horrible. And mosques were getting burned down as well. I think because of that warped view after that horrible, horrible incident, that obviously still should be remembered and honored. Muslims have not gained the best reputation, even though we're majority of the world. Like, it's the second world biggest religion. It's the fastest growing in the world, and like a lot of people are Muslim. It's just that with terrorist attacks and all that stuff, we're getting a bad rep, because that's like what the news focuses on. They don't focus on like Muslims helping people out, charity, the protests we're doing, like trying to be like good people, but they're focusing on like the small percentage that is not even us.
Right.
We don't consider terrorists to be Muslims, because they're doing everything that Islam doesn't require to do.
Yeah, I think that what you're saying is true, that like the news only tends to focus on the negative aspects of Islam, but I mean there's a lot of religious terrorism that isn't Islam, or Islamic rather. There's a lot of Christian terrorism, especially in the United States. There's we were talking about there's even Buddhist terrorism in certain parts of Asia, but I think since Islam is sort of a newer religion in the sense that it's sort of newer to America in a way, that it's kind of alien, it's kind of foreign, so people are more concerned about like whether or not it could be a threat as to whether or not there's good, hardworking, honest Muslim people in the United States. And I think it's really unfortunate, because like you said, after 9/11 a lot of Muslims were targeted and attacked, and a lot of people that were targeted and attacked weren't even Muslims. Like there was a huge spike in hate crimes against Sikhs and people of different religions, and I think a lot of it also has to do with this concept that of Muslims as like a race, almost like people see Islam as something that's very specifically Middle Eastern. And I think it kind of ties in with like ideas of racism and xenophobia.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
sorry.
Go ahead. No, it's alright.
If you don't mind commenting on it, I mean, I don't know too much about, Islam in America. Do you think it's on the rise more in America specifically? Like, I know, because, like you said, it's like one of the fastest growing religions.
I actually do think it is growing very popularity, because on TikTok and Instagram, Snapchat, I've had a lot of people who looked into it, and they're like, oh wow, we really resonate with this, let's become Muslim. So I think, like, obviously Middle East, Asia dominate Muslim populations, but I feel like in Western society, equally as there's as many people who are racist and xenophobic towards it, there's also an equal amount of people believing in it, which I think is beautiful. It's really great that there's two sides to the coin. There's also a good side to this.
Right.
Yeah, I definitely. Oh,
I was just gonna say, I think we said I think I said in another video that like anytime you see negativity in the name of religion, there's always, tenfold that amount of people that are doing positive things. So every time you see someone that's talking about Islam as if it's some sort of threat and saying how horrible it is, there's always going to be more people that might not even be Muslim that are defending it and coming to the aid of Islam simply because we're all human beings in a way.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Yeah, I think with the more proliferation of progressive initiatives in America, I think that has also opened a lot of people to, exploring outside of, domestic religion like Christianity. And, it's causing people to want to branch out more, to kind of distance themselves from that, which, in turn helps support, these other religions outside of America.
I agree with
that. That originated outside of America.
Oh, I do want to talk about xenophobia and like my personal experience with it.
Yeah, go ahead.
I guess might relate more. So I'm not sure if anyone like remembers. I feel like some of your viewers might, but in 2016 there was the San Bernardino attacks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And their last name was Rizwan, which is my last name, and they I guess I was like bullied around at the middle school here about my last name being that. I had my hijab pulled on many times over there. Obviously they got suspended, but the main thing is that I've seen a spike of xenophobia and racism happening at work, where I work. And it's a little sad because today, actually, a lot of old people usually come on, I shouldn't have said that, senior citizens come to Dunkin' to get their senior discount, right? So I was making their drinks and everything, but they didn't want me to touch their money or touch their hands because I'm a dirty Muslim, right? I've been told fob, all that stuff, but a lot of it's, I suppose a lot of people think it's not as obvious, but I still think it is because of the amount of people who give dirty looks, who kind of you can tell by their eyes, their tone of voice, you don't belong here, right? And
Right.
Which kind of sucks. I'm a born American. I have an American accent. I go to school in America. I have a lot of American friends too. So I guess that is one struggle with wearing the hijab and being Muslim, because Muslim men aren't noticed as much as Muslim, but Muslim women are because they wear the hijab. Yeah.
That's just so I totally believe you, but I can't imagine the audacity someone would have to actually attack someone or grab them or even say something like that to them. That's just horrible. And it just makes me realize how fortunate I am that even though I'm part of a minority religion, I don't think many people would assume that I'm a Buddhist by looking at me, because what's going on with hatred against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders right now, unfortunately, there's been multiple vandalisms and arsons in Buddhist temples, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that people are Asian American, and it makes me, first of all, very fortunate, like I said, that I don't outwardly I don't outwardly look different per se, but it's so unfortunate that people actually still think that way and would be willing to grab someone, the religious garments off someone, or to call them these horrible names. It's just really, it's very unfortunate. And I think that people need to realize that, as cliche as it sounds, that we're all people. So once you realize that first of all, you have no reason to hate anyone else, and second of all, that we're all people, I think that would do so much good for us. And it's very disappointing to think that we still are in a country and in a culture that where that's even remotely acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's crazy. It's stuff you hear about all the time, but
you never see it.
Yeah, it seems impossible.
Like I said, that has to do a lot with the fact that I don't outwardly look different from the status quo, so I feel kind of stupid being oh, I've never seen that. I've never but just because I've never seen it doesn't mean it's not happening,
Yeah.
And I think that's another thing we have to, as a culture, well, we don't have to do anything, but as a culture we should work on, is realizing that what we see is not what is going on. I could be staring at a beautiful field full of flowers and all that, and then behind me could be bombed out war zones, figuratively obviously, but we need to realize that what we're seeing is not all that's happening, and it's just so, like I said, I can't say it enough. It's just so unfortunate that like people, everyday people like you and millions and billions of other people have to go through stuff like that. It's horrible.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this wasn't really something I realized like happened so close to home until, well, there's like this like cultural outreach like social group that I was a part of, and we are doing this thing where the facilitators were like asking questions pertaining to like experiences and how they relate to race. And I think one of the questions was like, have you ever been like trailed around at like a grocery store or something because you look suspicious or something? And like lots of kids like raised their hand, and that was kind of a huge wake-up call for me about how like
yeah.
No, go ahead.
Oh yeah, like when you said that, I like remember like an incident that happened a few years ago. So it was after Eid, which is after Ramadan. We're obviously all like dressed up, all fancy for our like prayers and then celebration, right? So we had to go pick up some snacks from the store, and I went in with my sister. We went to go pick up some popsicles, and we're like, usually I dress in Western clothing. That day I was wearing a little bit more of Arabic Asian clothing, right? And I had my hijab like in like the traditional style. These white people like followed me around, and they called a security guard to like ask me where I was going. And keep in mind, I was like 13 at the time. I had no idea what was going on, and I had to like convince them like, oh, I'm just here buying popsicles. Which like, it is like, it's weird that it happens, especially in like this time and age where people are like performative activism is like rampant thing, but like it still shocks me how much like it happens.
I think another thing that has to tie in with what you're saying, like performative activism, like activism as an aesthetic, people aren't willing to put in the work to protect people like you. And that's not to say like people like you are like helpless or like, but like I think there's a lack of interest in actually reaching out and making the world a better place for people. And I think with the Black Lives Matter and the Protect AAPI movements that have been going on, a lot of the activism is just like for aesthetic, and it's just almost like virtue signaling. And I think that, like I said, like there needs to be a better effort to reach out and just protect people, no matter who they are or what they believe, because even if you disagree with their religion or whatever, like that's literally completely irrelevant. They're a person, and they need to be treated with respect no matter what. Even if they're a criminal should be treated with respect, just like an average person should be treated with respect. And every religion should respect every other religion, but unfortunately, especially in America, and that's not the case. And it's very, very disappointing that all the work that has been put into trying to make the world a better place for people can only go so far.
Yeah, and I mean what you're saying about like performative activism. I mean, just so much you see so often people. I think there's a lot of people, just trying to it's a lot of self-concern, trying to be on the right side of history. Like, not really, like, lots of people could care less about what happens outside of their own sphere. But if it's going to put them on the right side of history, if they're going to, like you said, virtue signal to look like
if they're going to gain more followers from this, then they'll do it.
I know, it's like the rightness and the goodness of a human being now is being dominated by wanting to look good to other people, but not doing good because it's the right thing to do.
Right.
Which it kind of sucks, right? But
it really does.
It's hard to change people's mind, force them to be like, hey, no, that's not right. You got to actually do it. Do it if you're going to do it, for real. Mm-hmm. Don't just like post a black square and be like, okay, that's enough. No, you got to actually.
Like, not to sound like high and mighty or anything, but like I've been saying that Muslim people deserve respect for years. I've been saying Black Lives Matter for years, like, and it's good to see more people doing it, but at the same time, it's kind of frustrating when people, you can tell they're just doing it just to do it. And same with religious cooperation. Even when I was an atheist, I thought that one of the most, like, and I still believe one of the most important things we can have in society is tolerance, specifically for religions, because I feel like religion, brings us together more so than anything else, and more so than anything else that also divides us. Like most of the major conflicts in world history have something to do with religion, and it's very unfortunate because it's very divisive, and in the end, whether you believe in God or not, or whether you're part of a specific religion or not, we're all humans, and we all should respect each other and learn from each other, and be better people.
Yeah, just like I feel like it has gotten easier since I started wearing the hijab, but it's also, I suppose, taught me a lot more how to handle and take words from people in the world. Because I met some of my best and closest friends through Islam, but I've also seen the true side of people very much.
Right.
I think is a very good thing that it gave.
Yeah, that's it reminds me of like what happened last summer with Black Lives Matter. It really just kind of, that amount of divisiveness really just showed you who everyone truly was. And I think that it's incredibly admirable that through all of the horrible things that you've been through, that you still continue to exercise your faith, and almost don't even let it affect you, because you believe what you believe, and you have very strong convictions, and you don't give up on that. I think that's like one of the most admirable things you can do is remain faithful and remain strong in times of adversity.
Yeah, I think that is like something that each religion is taught. Be strong and keep your faith clear, right?
Right.
Like sometimes it's not like for everybody. Everyone's view of religion is different, but I suppose for majority of people, it is known to like it teaches you strength and respect.
Right. Strength, respect, and in theory, trying to make the world a better place. And even if you're not religious, even if you're an atheist like I used to be, you still have that feeling of like, how can I make the world a better place? How can I be a better person? And stuff like that. I think that's just like one of the most basic human qualities is, respect and compassion.
Okay. I don't know what to say now, to be honest.
I mean, if that's all you have to say.
Yeah, unless if you guys have any other questions, I'm more than willing to answer.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything more to add than that.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything in particular that I can think of right now.
Yeah, of course. Oh, I do want to say this because I do know Muslims do not hate the LGBTQ community, like at all. All right, it is thought that we do. That is why a lot of people in the Palestine conflict are supporting Israel, because we hate. I'm bisexual myself. I don't know why, but I am, right? And I don't support like the hatred for it, because it is said that you shouldn't hate anyone, right? We love everyone. We don't hate them. I think that stigma needs to go away.
Right.
I just wanted to keep that up.
That's another thing, like with Christianity, like it seems like everyone thinks of Christians as like these like crazy, like, well, not everybody, because Christianity is like the largest religion in America, so I feel like there's a lot of power and social power, but like it seems like when people think of like Christianity, they think of like these nuts like speaking in tongues, like wishing death upon gays. But like, yeah, I think like you said earlier, like the crazy people, they always talk the loudest, so they're always going to be the ones that people are focusing on. And yeah, I think that's actually something kind of interesting, because I didn't necessarily think all Muslims hated the LGBT community, but I definitely didn't know that, like, it's a almost accepted, basically, like what you said. I think that's really cool, because once again, that shows that like we all have that sort of natural instinct of compassion and stuff.
Yeah, I feel like in the scripture it is said, oh, homosexuality is not accepted, right? But I can say for sure, a lot of Muslims in the modern age realize that this isn't like supported anymore.
Right.
Right? There's obviously gonna be billions of queer Muslims too, right? It's not what's gonna happen. So I suppose now it's like, no, we accept you, we love you, we're not going to judge you for anything.
Right.
For who you are.
Right. And it's interesting, because it's like in Buddhism, for example, the Buddha kind of didn't necessarily directly say, but alluded to the earth being flat, for example, or like the existence of dragons and stuff like that.
Yeah.
A lot of it's metaphorical, but like, yeah, people are going back and saying like, hey, the Earth's not flat, the Earth's round. Like, it's a good thing to kind of remove the negative elements from your beliefs and refine it until it's accurate and fits the modern era.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I think this that was like very interesting. I definitely learned a lot. I before this, I didn't really know a lot about Islam, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, purpose of this channel, learning from other people and learning and all that. So it's definitely good to have guests, especially, for example, people that are from religions that we might not know a lot about. So it's very interesting, very beneficial. So
Of course.
yeah,
I'm
just
glad
thank you for coming on and joining us.
Yeah.
All of our guests are incredibly appreciated. So yeah, we just really appreciate you coming on and talking.
Yeah, no problem. I'm glad I can talk about Islam somewhere. It's good to bring like a stigma of goodness to it instead of
Right. Yeah, it's good. It's definitely good to give a Muslim a platform to, talk about Islam and not, receive some sort of hatred for it, especially in America. Like it's just good to give people a platform to talk about what they believe in and kind of remove any stereotypes or like negative stigmas from it.
Yeah, and I'm appreciative of that. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming on.
Imran. Thank you to our viewers too, and
yes, to the viewers.
We're not sure what's going to happen next week in regards to an episode. We're considering making some changes to the channel format to kind of prevent it from getting redundant.
Right.
So we might have like a buffer episode, just like a mini lecture or something. But yeah, we thank you for your continued support, and we hope to see you guys soon.